Hi, welcome to this video about the Canadian monarch migration, brought to you by Spirogyra Butterfly Gardens in San Jose, Costa Rica. My name is Annika Jensen. I am a senior from Washington, D.C., and I'm currently an intern at Spirogyra. Every fall, monarchs migrate from Canada to Mexico. These small creatures travel 4,500 kilometers in order to get away from the cold. This migration is special compared to other species because it takes them around 4 to 5 generations to make their way to Canada. However, when traveling to Mexico, it only takes 1 generation. Scientists consider this to be a supergeneration, a collection of monarchs that live 8 times longer, are bigger, and can fly much farther compared to their counterpart. You may be wondering, how is this possible? Well, it turns out that the supergeneration produces less of a juvenile hormone, causing them to live longer and grow bigger. Now, from an evolutionary standpoint, it wouldn't make sense for the rest of the monarch population to be smaller. The previous generation was bigger. How is it that these butterflies have these traits of growing bigger and living longer, but they're unique to the supergeneration? Next generation in Mexico, or in southern parts of America, will not need to fly as far, store as much fat, nor live as longer as the supergeneration. So their juvenile hormone amount is much greater than the supergeneration. And when the next migration begins, they don't need to go as fast as possible, and they have time to stop because they're not being chased down by the cold. Another thing that is interesting to note about the monarch butterflies is their navigational skills. Unlike humans who have one 24-hour internal clock, monarch butterflies have two. The first tells them when it is time to head south, and the other is like a compass that tells time. Their antenna tells them what time it is by which part of the sky the sun is in. For example, if it is late afternoon, the sun should be on the right of the antenna. Then they use this information to figure out which direction is where. For example, if the antenna says it's late morning, the sun should be on their left. If they want to head south or southwest using the two clocks, they are able to migrate throughout the year. Unfortunately, the monarch population has been dropping at an extremely fast rate due to climate change and habitat loss. In California, the population has dropped 86% from last year. And in Mexico, the population has dropped 15% from last year. If you look at this graph from World Wildlife Fund for Nature, it shows that in the beginning of the decade, monarchs were at a dangerously low number and only recently have started to return. However, in the 2019-2020 hibernation, it is only half of the 2018-2019 hibernation, suggesting that the monarchs are still threatened. Due to an increase in carbon dioxide, we're losing these incredible creatures at such a fast rate, and we need to preserve the monarchs. Milkweed is an extremely important plant to the butterflies. It is their main source of food and where they can lay their eggs. The decrease in carbon dioxide has made milkweed in Texas extremely toxic to the butterflies. This specific milkweed was already pretty toxic and hard for the butterflies to eat. Not only does the rise in carbon dioxide mean this form of milkweed becomes too toxic, it also means all milkweed will become more toxic or too toxic for the monarchs. Milkweed is also the provider of carotenoids. Carotenoids are steroids that fight off Ophriosis electrocera, a parasite that attacks the caterpillar and reproduces in their guts. If the caterpillar is to survive, they might develop misshapen wings and low endurance, making the migration impossible. With the increase in carbon dioxide, not only is milkweed becoming toxic, but the carotenoids are less effective as well. Monarchs have no place to rest nor lay their eggs on this long journey now because of a decrease in milkweed from people taking it out of their yards or farmers mowing over it. I hope you all know that there are many ways to help the monarchs. After all, shouldn't we at least try after destroying their habitat? A simple task to do is planting a pollinator garden. This tool will create a landing and feeding space for pollinators like monarchs. For the best results and to be the most conscious of your surroundings, there are a couple of variables to take into account when planting a pollinator garden. The first is location. You'll want a sunny place since pollinators like the sun best. Second is soil type. Determining if you have more sand-like soil or clay-like soil will influence what type of plants you should grow. Third is plants. Research native milkweed and pollinators in your area. This step is extremely important to help the surrounding ecosystem instead of hurting it. A simple way to do this is to find a nursery near you that specializes in native plants. Also, be on the lookout for perennials so your plants come back each year. Fourth, decide whether a plant or seed would be better to create your garden. This can depend on your timeline and budget. Plants are easier and faster to grow, so pollinators can come right away. However, they are more expensive than seeds. Seeds take more time to get your garden started. During the fall and late winter, scatter seeds in the area where you want your garden to be to ensure these seeds germinate. Even in winter, if there is snow outside, you should scatter the seeds. But be sure to follow the frost guidelines so you don't hurt the plants. Your garden can also be done in raised beds or in a lawn. All you have to do is make sure that you add nutrient-rich soil and or compost to the area. You can also do this in your community if you do not have space in your yard. To help monarchs more, one can become a citizen scientist. These people help collect data about the monarchs by collecting data from migration, monitoring eggs, natural enemies, overwintering, integrated monitoring, and local monitoring. This is extremely helpful to scientists so they can better understand the monarch migration and how they are being affected by climate change and loss of habitat. A simple task one can do to benefit the monarchs is to educate others about the migration and how they're being threatened. I hope you take away from this that the monarchs are facing many problems because of climate change. We can do so much to help them. If you live on a farm or in an agricultural area, I want you to listen closely for the next steps you can take to help the monarchs. By planting more native prairie wildflower, you can help control invasive species, improve water quality, provide quality forage for livestock, and support pollinators. You should also only mow every 4 to 5 years in order to maintain a high quality habitat for the outdoor critters. If you're going to mow, make sure that you avoid these times during monarch activity because it can hurt the eggs and caterpillars on the plants. When mowing, try to protect areas that have milkweed and understand the timeline of breeding and migration for your area. In the US, the mowing window for the South is from November to March. In the Middle States, it is from October to April. And in the North, it is from September to May. Remember, a mowed area is like a desert to a monarch. Please really consider if it is worth it to mow these areas for the sake of the monarch's survival. By educating yourself on why the monarchs are suffering, it is one step closer to helping them. I encourage you to keep in mind all the work that butterfly houses like Spirogyra do in order to preserve these magnificent species. Thank you so much for watching this video, and please go check out Spirogyra's website at spirogyrabutterfly.wixsite.com/Spirogyra mariposas. And for more information about how you can help the monarchs, visit fws.gov, Save the Monarch, and just to learn more about monarchs in general, visit nationalgeographic.com.